Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on that hot Saturday day to listen to me. My name is Rami Mulais. I'm working for Yandex Cloud. I'm head of Cloud Trust team. Cloud Trust. What is it about? What we're doing? We are about providing for processes and instruments and tools that help to reduce risks when working in the cloud platforms, providing for transparency of security processes so that you could understand how we protect the platform, what our operation center is doing, what it doesn't do, and what our security service is doing. We have to distribute the responsibility. Who is responsible for what in the cloud platform? I'll have a request. Raise your hands if you are using the cloud platform in your work. Quite few of you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 10 of you. That's not a lot. Okay. That's good that you have come. Because we look at different reports, and in essence, I can guess why you're not doing anything in the cloud. If we look at the recent report by Fortinet on state of cloud security report, they polled several hundreds of organizations across the globe, and the reason number one why the people are not migrating to cloud that's about security and compliance concerns. 61% cases. Many think that Russia has some specific situation, and many mistrust the cloud just because there is a special attitude towards cloud. No, this is global. Everyone has clear problems. They see certain risks when working with the public clouds. If we deep dive into that, the second question was about what prevents people from providing security, what problems and challenges are most difficult. Number one, that's about data security. So everyone is fearing that the data would be leaked. The second reason, that's about the access control identity. And number three, that's about configuration and misconfiguration management. So the public cloud has certain features and it may create certain problems. Within Yandex Cloud, we keep asking our clients and users, and in general, we do some poll across the market, and the situation would be the following. The situation might be the following. The only exception is that we see shortage of personnel. We are lacking people, but at the same time, the problem number one is about the risks related to the leak of confidential data, personal data, private data. Let's divert from the statistics and let's try to see. For instance, this is some imaginable application. I tried to consider how certain applications are working in the cloud, and I divided that into several levels. Just like in CI, the first level, that's about the applications. You have API, you have certain balancer, you have some key management service. This is how the application is working. We go to a lower level, and we will get some functional components which are necessary in order to assemble the application. In case of a cloud, why people love clouds, because immediately you have a GitLab, you have managed Kubernetes, and there is a container register with certain images to scale up and deploy the applications for certain loads or certain tasks. If we go below, that would be a level of a platform, cloud platform, where you have virtual machines that could be deployed within 2 minutes, then the virtual network, which also could be set. And you can create sub-networks, you can create some security subgroups. and unlimited data storage. And below, more interesting thing occurs. You have a hypervisor, you have an underlying virtual network. So usually that would be several data centers, and those several data centers would work as one single platform. And it works at the level of virtualization in case of a private, public cloud or hyperscaler. It helps to stretch that enormously, endlessly. And finally, it works on some server equipment which has to be located somewhere, physical infrastructure. As the security guys, let us assume where we can have any problems, what threats might be there. And the polls were driven to that exactly. Number one, level of application. So, first of all, this is about the evaluation of the logics and vulnerabilities and top 10 WASP. If we go below, you can find many more interesting things. Quite recently, a report was published by our security center that identified what vulnerabilities were used, mostly when attacking the cloud infrastructure. And for instance, it echoes what Google says, first of all, configuration mistakes. So the settings are wrong. Now, taking stock of the equipment, you do not know what cloud resources you have, and this is a big problem. And access control, which is missing or which is not configured very well. So, in terms of a hypervisor, you don't know why those risks emerge, because, for instance, there is some level of transparency. You do not know what is going on at the level of this or that data center. How we can address, how we can fix those problems, that's very easy at the level of applications. You either take positive technologies application firewall or smart web security from Yandex Cloud. Choose the one that you like most, but most importantly, there has to be some protection from DDoS attack. This is a mandatory, this is a must-have tool. What could be done below once you are working in the cloud platform? Certainly, you have to control the configurations, you have to control data. Thus, understanding who is processing those data at Cybernatives or GitLab, and probably the developers have forgotten something. Added to that, you have to take certain events that are occurring to those servers, and you have to correlate everything. And several times I would be repeating the same phrase, that cloud, this is not a black box, as many perceive it. And here we have to control the access, to understand who is accessing what, and some transparency. Any more comments? Or probably I'm wrong. Maybe I forgot something? No? Okay, everyone agrees on that, so let us proceed with the hands-on. How the cloud platforms repel all those threats, how they help to reduce the risks, the ones that I have just highlighted. I looked at AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft, Alibaba Cloud, and Yandex Cloud, and compared them. As for the security of data, they all have kind of a tool, like a Cloud DLP, for instance, that would be messy or Purview, and we launched some tool which is for free as a preview. We are just testing that. It is called DSP, Data Security Posture Management. There are also some secret managers, so repositories of confidential data. As for the access management, there has to be IAM everywhere. I will tell you more about that. This is a tool for centralized managing roles and access to cloud technologies. Some guys are offering extra services like DPA. Microsoft call that Entra. There might be different other services. Speaking about misconfiguration, this situation is even more interesting. Many have inbuilt CSPM solutions. Unfortunately, we don't have that. Well, just like Alibaba, at least I didn't find that. But we're working on that. Yesterday, my colleague called Osipov said how we're using CSPM to protect our internal platform. Because Yandex technologies are living in the cloud and we are experimenting with them. Some of the things have been already done and step by step we'll bring that to the market. Incident management, transparency of actions of the employees and the requirements, everything is very simple. You may outsource that, you may engage partners or automate that. We have a compliance portal that you may check and ask for the pin test report, internal threat model. And here you provide for transparency, necessary transparency. Besides, many suggest certain standards, best practices that help to provide security for the users. We have developed our standard, and there is the full version that we have already published. The very idea is that there are tools, and they are quite standardized, and they move in the same direction, including us. And that would ease our work in the cloud. And besides, many of you probably are familiar with that slide. This is a slide which is called sharing responsibility. Our security director makes us speak about shared responsibility. But there are some boundaries. When you know who is responsible for what in terms of security, depending on the consumption model. If within your data center you just deploy the server, you're responsible for all security aspects, starting from the network one ending with the application security. But if you take some ready-made solution, out-of-box solution, that it would be the provider responsible for everything except for access. Access to data is always yours. This is your realm. A platform as a service and service as a service. This is actually when you take virtual machine and you do whatever you want there. You deploy your system, some software, some data, some applications. And you're responsible for that. And as for the rest, that's the responsibility of the platform provider. PaaS, this is the database management. Why? They love clouds because you have PaaS and you just switch it on or switch it off if necessary. And that's the responsibility of the user, that's the policy. The client's data are quite toxic. We all the time try to never let anyone get access to that. What ways we have to control the resources and users' data? First of all, there is a clear-cut resource model for the cloud. Once you deploy a cloud and inside it, you may divide that into some logical organizations. Then inside there might be different clouds, different catalogs within the clouds. And within the clouds, you may have certain virtual machines, certain resources, and providing access to certain resources could be case by case. That complicates work in the cloud because immediately you want to provide access to the whole organization, just like it's been done in other systems. But in essence, this is not an access to the whole catalog, which is not recommended, but you have to provide access to some specific actions or resources. This is a very well-developed resources model. It is free. We're not charging any money for that. IAM has about 1 million of RPS, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the figure that I heard, that the load is huge on that system. And it always checks any actions in terms of availability of access. Another tool that you may use, this is audit trails. Audit trails. This is how you collect the events from different cloud services, more than 120 of them, for instance. You collect that data from virtual machines or some network events. And audit trails would collect the security event set would upload that where you want, some data repository, or, for instance, we have a connector with a smart pattern provided by Kaspersky and besides.
Мы уже достаточно давно проработали около 70 правил корреляции, которые прямо из коробки работают.
And these might be some out-of-box solutions.
Опять же, это бесплатный инструмент.
And again, these tools are for free. I'm not selling anything to you. So Audit Trails is available for free. At the level of configuration, there are some paid trails when you want to see what is going on inside the database, and certainly they will charge money for that. But these are the free security devices or tools which are available to any user. What are the trends in the market? If we look at Google and Microsoft and Amazon, for instance, CNAAPP has become a very cool instrument. Probably you heard that Google bought a startup which is called Viz for $20 billion. Why it costs so much and why? Google believes that it is very valuable because, for instance, it automates the compliance with the requirements, it automates the configuration. Unlike on-prem, everything is transparent, everything is standardized in the cloud. Just like in Audit Trails, we can see any security event, and therefore we can automate the compliance with the requirements almost on go, in the blink of an eye. CNAP usually would have Kubernetes inbuilt. There are tools and instruments that would check who has what rights to what resources, whether they are still valid, and are there any such tools as a data security platform or data security posture management, which provides for the security of the data?
So
that's a tool that automates the compliance. DSPM, how it works in our case. For instance, in Yandex Cloud, there might be some bucket, and we get connected to that by means of parsing some scanner. We are processing the data. We would split them into certain pieces. We will send that to ML, and we check with the help of some simple mechanisms to identify the credit cards. We use Luna algorithm to understand that really these are the card data. Then it all would generate alert, and probably you can see that in the interface of the cloud. Now it is for free as a preview mode, and we will incorporate that into the database, and for instance, it could be incorporated in other clouds or 360 disks. Getting back to that slide, as I've already said, this is this very part. What you can do in the cloud. So I've not mentioned yet that we can deploy firewalls or user gate, where we can use some standardized conventional antiviral programs. Just like you do that in your physical infrastructure, you can do the same for the cloud. But you cannot deploy a sandbox. Sandbox requires embedded virtualization, which jeopardizes the security of the platform. Let me tell you more about that thing, how we can make sure that our engineers, the workers of Yandex Cloud, do not undermine your infrastructure. For that, we have an internal service which was developed in-house. It's called Bastion, and it has nothing to do with a very well-known company. This is our internal system. This is PAM that we call the Bastion. What it can do? It can record sessions. It can ensure some access policy depending on the role of the users. It either would have access or would not have an access. All the logs would be stored. The second factor has been implemented, and that's an extra SIB control. We have the second factor, and that's a token that you put into your notebook, and only once you touch it, you can get connected using SHH to Bastion. And Bastion would let you accede to different hosts and database and virtual machines. So this is our internal tool. We're not selling that.
Господин Лукацкий
Mr. Lukansky
поругал, что вот мы продаем какие-то продукты.
criticized us for selling certain products, but now we're not selling this one. Apart from SHH system, we have a private API Bastion. With all due respect to the support service, but for instance, support service is much more accessible than anyone else, and we made a special API for it. They don't use PSSH. Also, you need the support of database Bastion. Also, we have made a standalone Kubernetes Bastion for some network systems that do not support SHH. We have arranged another standalone tool. So why I'm speaking about Bastion? That's the infrastructure of the cloud. That this is the virtual machine. That's the database. That's the equipment it is connected to. Who may get access to that? The support once it is required to do that. For instance, if you say, "Help me fix the database," or once you have to update the hypervisor or database or make some updates. And once there is a security incident, then Yandex Cloud security team would get an access to those resources. This is why we have Bastion. Everything is being recorded. It would be rendered to the Security Incident Operations Center. And those sessions that we accumulate, why we cannot render that to your security system? What prevents us from doing that? Here in Bastion, there might be some secrets, there might be some things which other people are not supposed to see. So, I mean, it might be about just isolation breach, for instance. Once the encryption keys have been leaked. So we did something about that. So what we did, let me get back to that once again. So we're showing, first of all, the very fact of access, some metadata at the time, why access was needed in the framework of a security incident or for the technical support. Then we did ML analysis and GPT summary. So that's the access session checked with GPT, and you can see them in the interface. Afterwards, we trained GPT to summarize that. What an engineer has done. For instance, here the engineer is doing test containers, he's running some scripts, etc. So network actions are like that. And these are the conclusions of GPT and ML, that nothing dangerous was done. But sometimes some compromises were identified, and then it would be rendered to our Security Operations Center. You as user may escalate that. For instance, according to your information, on that time there was some incident and you want the logs. So you can ask for the logs and start some investigation into that incident. And there's a question. Many of you probably can ask a question whether you can trust GPT, because they have a lot of hallucinations. They're stupid. They may tell lies. And we thought about that, and there is a whole story behind that. And I hope that we will tell the whole story, but unfortunately this is confidential. Well, actually, there are 23 different steps on the way of summarizing that, 23 different modules that help us to validate the data. Validate the takeaways. First of all, we very simply, without using GPT, are looking for some compromising conclusions or takeaways or some commands. Very simple analytical work. If the technical support engineer is copying a big amount of data that's quite compromising, why? They have to download a lot of data. That's a red flag. If certain hackers' commands are noticed, for instance, again, we see the list of such commands, and we added them
вот в этот процесс предпроцессинг, чтобы отловить
into
явные
that pre-processing in order to be aware of some hacker attacks. We're looking for some excessive commands. We are purging the commands.
какие-то чувствительные данные.
Once we see some sensitive data, some secret tokens, SHH keys, we would mask them and we would not render that to the model.
Файлов, названия файлов.
We check the names of the files, we would purge that as well.
Так как
Then, again, as the session could be quite long one,
проживать моделька может, ну, иногда не может, то есть есть определенные ограничения.
and there are some limitations or restrictions, then we would
Одна и та же команда
actually replace that with
в одну, ну и так далее. Есть
something unifying that. So it means that if the command is repeated several times, then we would merge them into one. Then we summarize that. So there is only one model which provides some percentage
безопасно или нет.
in terms of whether it is safe or not. The other model is summarizing, and then we are about validating that summary.
Какой-то айдишник.
If we see some ID of certain resource, we would check that resource
разных проверок.
using different checks as to
Это суммаризация.
that summarizing is valid or not. Then you get two types of summarizing and verdicts. One is about Security Operations Center with a lot of data there, and the second one is for the users with a limited number of data. In some cases, the specialists from our Security Operations Center would double-check everything, so it means that we are
Вот, если коротко, то
providing training for the model. This is how it all happens. Okay,
видите, у нас
here you see
ребята работают безопасно.
that people are working safely and securely, and Bastion is certified by the Federal Service for Technical Supervision.
Возражение о том, что здесь вы можете наврать или что-то неправильно.
So there cannot be objections that we can be wrong. No, the system never fails. Our Security Operations Center reacts to certain incidents and has to inform the client about certain incidents within 24 hours. For premium clients, we actually will notify them within 4 hours. We all the time do audits in compliance with the requirements. So the cloud platform follows certain certificates, and Bank of Russia and the federal regulator also sets the regulations. But these things are outdated. 2 years ago, it was enough, but now this is not enough, because this more and more critical infrastructure has been deployed in the cloud. So they need the results of pin tests, they need the red team, that the results of red team are also disclosed, and vulnerability protection audit has to be shown. The threat model has to be shown according to Federal Law 52, and in addition to that, we have the internal audit team. The results of work of all those teams are available from the website. You can ask for that.
С помощью нашего compliance-портала.
And please turn to our compliance portal.
Но, в принципе, вы можете нам не доверять.
But certainly, trust but verify, and can use your own pin testers. Unlike other cloud platforms, we do not have to get your agreement. There are certain rules that you may use to pin test that. And if you find something, we'll be grateful if you inform us about that.
Заранее согласовывать с нами ничего не нужно.
So you don't have to agree everything with us, but don't do any DDoS attacks. I told you about the standard. We're developing our own standard, and there are different checklists that we're providing.
Готовый solution.
And there is a ready-made solution in terms of security, which is available from the website.
Мы вот
Also,
вопрос про нехватку кадров.
answering your question about the shortage of personnel, we have
Также мы запустили
security courses which are free, and also we launched the certification.
в районе 10 тысяч рублей.
So taking exam costs about 12,000 rubles, and this is like big boys are doing, so it means that you have to sit in front of a camera and answer questions. After
Бесплатные
you did those free courses.
общие курсы про
So there are some general courses regarding the protection of the cloud infrastructure, and it ends up with some specific things like DC COPS.
в целом
All in all,
прозрачность для нас
transparency
важно, доверие для
is of paramount importance. The trust for Yandex Cloud That's a very important element of doing business. Therefore, we keep saying about our budget, how many people are employed in data security, and the red team hours that we spend. And we have our own bug bounties. And you see, the payouts are less and less. So we need bug hunters very much. We are looking for them. And artificial intelligence bug bounty has been offered quite recently. There are lots of other instruments and tools, things that I can tell you, but probably not in the framework of that presentation. Come to us on the 19th of June. We will make a barbecue.
Мы это зашифровали под Cloud Security Day. На самом деле, мы нам будем...
We have encrypted it to Cloud Security Day, but actually we're going to discuss their cloud security, so please sign up and we'll be happy to see you and we'll be happy to talk to you more about cloud security.
Если есть вопросы, буду рад ответить.
I'm happy to take your questions.
Вон там вопрос.
Нет, если включить микрофон, все услышат тогда.
I guess if the mic is on, you will be able to hear me. Rami, hello. Two questions. There is a point of view that a solution can be mature in case if it can be played in the cloud. Let me make an example. The Russian market is different from the foreign market. Let's compare them. They can't be compared, actually, because they have a lot of solutions in the cloud. In Russia, we have a lot of solutions on the hardware. Can we actually estimate the level of maturity of solutions based on whether or not they can be put into the cloud? I don't think it's right. There are technological limitations. Not always they can be solved in a cloud platform, particularly the platform that is not entirely in your control. The example you're making is very good. We have UserGate and we have Checkpoint. Checkpoint can be, well, how to say? It could be introduced into fault-tolerant infrastructure. In one data center we had one, in the other data center we had another. And UserGate cannot be used, actually. The fault-tolerant or fault-resistant configuration in the cloud is impossible because in the cloud we do not allow anyone to L2. L2 level is restricted for anyone. I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. Does it mean that Checkpoint is a more mature solution? Checkpoint takes longer to make, to set up. Well, opportunities of Checkpoint are bigger because they have been in the market for a long time, but it's needless to say that UserGate defends in a poorer way than Checkpoint. Checkpoint is a better defense. It depends on the way you set up, of course, but I can make an example driven by your question. Checkpoint understands that out of hyperscalers, nobody will ever give access to L2. This is why they produced an app which ensures this fault resistance, fault tolerance. But UserGate is not looking that way yet. I have another question. Is anyone willing to ask a question? Another lady. A lady at the Information Security Conference. Let me ask one more question. I will then hand over the microphone to. Ladies first. Good afternoon. I wanted to clarify. I was not clear, didn't follow the moment about... Well, our infrastructure uses a cloud solution. Could you speak louder a little bit? Let's assume our infrastructure is in your cloud. Let's assume there's an incident. So anyway, information security, Yandex information security team will get involved in our incident, right? It depends on where the incident happens. In case if we get back to, well, if the incident happens on the side of the customer, of course, we get engaged. We're seeing whether it's on our end, whether it's in our loophole. Maybe we have a vulnerability here or here, maybe something happened there. But anyway, it's the client's responsibility. Any incident is client's responsibility because this part is your responsibility. Also, one more question. If we request additional information, then it will be concised, summarized. in order for us not to see some sensitive information, right? By default, this information is provided in a summarized manner. But in case if it's necessary for your investigation of the incident, we can provide any data. We're happy to do so. But all data need to be cleared manually. We need to double check that other customers' data are not falling in there. So this question, this thing is not easy for us. We cannot isolate everything. But if there, upon request, we can prepare data for you by clearing out all the data from other clients. Hello. You told a lot about AU details. My question is, why don't you introduce... Well, I have heard that L2 access is never given, but span should be granted sometimes, and in the cloud, it's a problem. Either NTA service which collects these logs and shows them. Yeah, it's been in the backlog for ages. It's very painful. Every time when we see people in the corridor, these people in the corridor, we make fun of them. But there is a priority. Tinkoff ensures stability of the network of the cloud platform. It makes sure that recent incidents do not happen second time. Once they tell us we're okay, we're ready to take new features on board, then we, of course, will get back to this matter. But so far, the priority is for stability of the platform. Well, network people, it's very difficult to negotiate with them. It's necessary. Definitely. Well, it's a painful topic. It's very painful for me right now. Once we have some updates, I'll let you know. Rami, it's a rare conference about every information of information security always touches upon personnel shortage. What competencies exactly, what roles are missing in the experts of information security? What competencies are they lacking currently? Understanding of some simple things, actually, such as EAM work or IAM work, or how encryption is done on cloud platforms. This encryption, here, diving into authentication and access control, we understand perfectly well that information security people are in a shortage. We don't have many of them. The only way to make security better is to engage adjacent people, for instance, with DevOps or with software developers. We give them more clarity about information security. From the standpoint of cloud platform, we're experiencing shortage of people who at least have read our recommendations on information security in the cloud platform. That's what we're missing right now. Nothing in particular is necessary. It's not a big deal. You just need to dive into the context of the cloud. That's it. If I may, one more question. I've been in this world for a long time. I remember a lot of things. At the point when cloud just appeared, and NIST produces a comparison risks in traditional environments and cloud environments. And according to NIST, there are only 2 more risks in the cloud. Judging by your table, it's the same. Cloud environments have 2 more risks now. It's a risk of interaction with the cloud provider and instruction for users how to work with clouds. Has something changed in this sense? Are there any more risks? Judging by your table, there are still the same risks that are typical of clouds, but people are reluctant to use clouds. And it's clear why they're not going to clouds. No, it's unclear to me. Not clear. Okay. Well, according to those who took part in the survey that I mentioned at the start, here are the key stoppers. Here is what stops people. Data leakage risk. People not always people understand how to protect sensitive data in the cloud, but do they understand how to do it on their hardware, in their circuit? It's a different question. That's the point. So what are they afraid of? I'm always making an example. There is often another question. How can we trust? So you want us to trust you to place some critical systems on your end, but we're not in control of your systems. We're not in control of your hardware. We're not in control of hypervisor where things happen. So there's another question. We always ask a question. I think there are very few companies that can afford a data center, to build a data center from scratch. So they rent a data center. It's a third-party data center. It's third-party employees, third-party hardware. well, maybe processing units belong to them, but the rest is not theirs. Do you control it there? Is there full control? I think the main thing that prevents people favoring control is a shortage of personnel and shortage of awareness about risk. You just need to know how to interact with cloud provider, and that's it. From this point, you work the same way as you work on-prem. Maybe I'm just daydreaming, I don't know. But these are the key things that you sort out in order to reduce risks. You should configure it right, you should hand out access rights the right way, and you should protect your data so that they're encrypted, so that they are not sticking out from your platform. So all the hope is with AI. Can I ask one more question? Because I'm a journalist, and as a journalist, if I run out of questions, I'm a dead journalist. If I'm alive, I have a lot of questions. So this question is outdated, 3 years outdated, I guess, because 3 years back, Gartner noticed a new trend. Interest to clouds is going higher, like the pendulum has moved. It's not that when we're choosing a partner on cloud technologies, this partner is satisfactory for us now, but it never promised anything new to us in 2 or 3 years, because cloud company has one strategies and the client company has different strategies. And so the question, how can we take services from you? How can we transfer technologies from you to the client? There is no painless way to do that. The only way is to build your data center as a transit point. I see. So what do you mean? There is a vendor log and everybody's scared of this? Yes, exactly. All right, the same as with CM. You just need to carefully choose the partner. But migration from one cloud to another cloud is painful, but it's not impossible. Many these days understand the concept of multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. You deploy some things and you back up things, or you use Sber Cloud, Yandex Cloud, Google Cloud, or some other cloud. There are these cases, but the most interesting cases are how do you recover based on this backup, using this backup. It's a different question. It's worth another presentation. It's worth another one-week conference. Thank you for the great questions. Are there more questions? Thank you very much for still staying here. Thank you very much for listening. It's a great honor for me. Thank you. Oh, by the way, please stay tuned, because the next speaker is Mr. Sidov. He will give an amazing presentation.